much sooner than you anticipated. A brand new guest on today's episode. We are kindly joined by Ashley, aka the man with the A45, aka the RS3, aka so on and on and on and on and on. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. It really is a pleasure because we do know that people obviously have busy schedules, and we really do appreciate you being on this podcast today. So
we would like to know, who is Ashley? Let's basically start there.
Well, first, thanks for the invitation, Wood. Much appreciated.
Oh,
yeah, guys, there's not much of any fancy story to tell. I'm just an ordinary guy with an extraordinary passion for cars. I just like the typical kid. I think there's nothing that differentiates my story from the rest of the others. You know, you grow up seeing these Rotmans, Baba Nemo, and now you just hope that one day, that will be us. Yeah, I grew up in a gangster's paradise, if you could put it that way. And you know, you'd have all these guys coming up, most of them would have them piped out from power pipes, and you know, you're a kid, you're just like, yo, this thing is like dope. And you know, some of them would allow you to enter into the vehicles, some wouldn't. But I just had that passion that, hey, it would be nice, man. One day I wanted to own a nice ride. Just have to, you know, put in the work, put in the effort. And yeah, before I knew it, I think I started. My first car was a Datsun Go.
No way.
From
Serious?
Sweden, yeah. The Datsun Go. But I remember collecting it, and I was like, nah, man, this car is too stock for me. And yeah, so I took it down to my mate, like in Florida. Mark is his name. I was like, yo, Mark, dude, what can we do to this thing? Mark didn't drive a Golf, by the way. It's like maybe Mark for Mark 1 or something. But he was a sound guy, dope sound guy. So we pimped that thing up with some crazy sound. It actually bent at some point when I was on the freeway coming from Pretoria. And yeah, we did all those stickers and stuff. So there's not power in it, that's a go.
Yeah,
but
really.
But then passion, when I like you're pushing it already.
I get some Ferrari.
Yeah, like already pushing this thing. In a rasa, Nina, it's an interview.
When I'm Mr. Houseman. But you get joy, you can do it.
So yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, just the passion.
But what did you do to it? Tell us more about that.
There's not much that you could have done to that thing, man. Couldn't tune it. Maybe you could, eh? I probably didn't just push it that much.
Couldn't really do much to it anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't really do much to it. So it was more, I was more of a sound guy back then, as opposed to a performance guy and, you know, speed and what's on it. So, yeah, I think it was only later on that I started entering into the scene. I think Boss 45 introduced me to the scene. I was taking the car down to power pipes. Like, when I mentioned to you earlier that Abakrotman would have these kusheshas with power pipes. So first thing I did when I decided, no man, the car is out of warranty, and I'm gonna start messing around with it. So I decided I'm gonna take it to power pipes. I get to power pipes. I met some chap who also happened to be that he was driving at the point the fastest M2 or something. Can't remember now. It's been a couple of years. Yeah. So he sees me walking up there with the A45, and he says to me, "Yo, do you know Boss 45?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" Like, "No, Boss 45. He's a guy. He's a racer." I'm like, "Racer?" Like, "Yeah. What is a race? A45." I thought my A45 was the fastest at that point.
At that time, yeah.
And it was a stock car. You don't know anything about tuning. Hey, kanti welele. So Umchita then plugs me with Boss 45. He sends me Bongani's number. So I eventually reach out to Bong. I'm like, "Hey, dude, I've just got this car, done pipes and stuff like that." They tell me you go racing. I think I was calling him out when he started.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I never called him out, but he was like to me, "Oh no, come through." He's a very nice guy. So we met up like before ways. And you know, he then said to me, what's again, Kempton Park QT performance. They were in Kempton Park at the time. So he was like to me, so he came through from a Kempton Park, or was he at 4 Ways? I can't remember, but we met at 4 Ways. And then he jumped into my car, and then the guy's like, he says, "Oh no, this thing is slow, but we'll fix it." Like, dude, what are you talking? What do you mean this thing is slow, man? It's an A45. I just spent so much money on this car. You can't come and tell me. And my car is the fastest 2 liter in the world, man. What are you talking about? And until then, Umchita would then invite me, to drags. Then you realize, man, my car is slow.
Shifted your whole perspective on what speed really is.
Yeah, and now you get all of those tuned vehicles there, and the guys are flying, man. I'd never raced, so it was now just a thing of taking along no bongs to go and watch races and what's so not. I met a couple of guys, about Kyle, the guys that are big, chasing the times for the fastest A45s and what's so not. And I'd go a lot, La partner, at the Rock. And then this one day I got there earlier, got there just like as they were opening around 4 or so. Like, let me give this thing a try. I'm going to race. So Kyle came through. He's Kyle, he drives this red A45. So he said, no, let me show you how to race. He shows me the whole thing, the line dropping and what this guy's. What are those guys that do the Chinese November? Yeah, the 28 line. No, not linesmen. What do we call them? November. What do we call those guys, man, that directs us to race?
It is a legend.
No, there's a name for it.
A marshal.
No, it's not a marshal.
The
What do we call those guys, man? 28. Those guys have a proper name. There's a name for them.
I don't know. I just call him that. Like the Bravo call him that.
Yeah, 28. Don't we have Ghost Lady here? You're like pet checker, yeah. Like you're gonna check for us, so they call him. So Kyle came through. He taught me that. So the idea was, I'm just gonna do one run.
from one to plenty.
So I went down. Obviously, young Shula, so I couldn't match up when the guy is dropping his hand. Nothing was making. So I said, no, let me do it again. And I think the following Wednesday, now I'm racing, Baba. I'm like racing my slow car, getting child. Then I decided, I'm gonna put some money into this thing. I think I spent on that A45. It's close to about 600K.
Are you serious?
And most of it in making mistakes, eh?
So
And there's a chap there, he's seated right over. He's like, yeah, I shot an A45 with 600K in it. Is that what you said? So yeah, but I made a lot of mistakes. When you're new in the game, you take your car to different people and they sell you different things, files from shelves, tables were blowing. I think I blown about 3 or 4 tables twice at the Rock. Yeah, blew twice at the Rock, had to get the thing on a stretcher bed. I've knocked the engine twice. Why? Which is out of the 600K that I'm talking about. So maybe when you start talking mechanical, it's maybe even close, you probably will be talking close to a bar, including maintenance and stuff on an A45. Bruh. Yeah. So, but you see, as they say, it's the bug. And we're surrounded with racers in this place. They say once the bug bites you, because you'd be saying, I think racing is an addiction. It's like anybody that's on crystal meth. There's no difference between those two. Just you guys think about it, man. Because you'll be like, you've blown a table, and that 20,000 rand is not in your budget. But somewhere, somehow, you find it. Where are you finding it? Where is it coming from? Ask the guy that's like, wanting his next fix. Where is he getting his money from? So the bug caught me, and I've been racing ever since. At some point, I was quite strong in the streets before the new kids on the block started popping up. Some of them are seated here, coming up with their fancy cars and stuff. We had to spend money in our cars. This was just going and taking cars from dealerships, bro, and then coming to Dallas and give us Dandas. So is that guy over there? So I think I've had my fair share in the racing scene. I've done the traveling, I've done the enjoyment, dominated at some point, taken my fair share of losses. It's like I'm done,
You're done with the racing scene?
I'm joining stunts now.
So we basically cycled through the first car, which is the Datsun Go, and then you shifted over into the A45. But I'd like to jump maybe just a couple of the steps back of other cars you've owned previously before the Datsun, and then heading over to the A45.
So quite kusasa, miss. No, but look, I'll only tell you about my favorites, which is the A45. I don't even think the RS3 is mine. So usually when I have to talk about cars, man, I think that the A45 has defined me in the car scene, and it's that one vehicle that I've really, really enjoyed. And it was I'm quite an impulsive buyer, so I rarely ever apply my mind, do research. I think when I bought the A45, I was on the internet searching for some other stuff. I don't know what I was reading, and then I saw this A45, and then they were selling it at this exotic car dealership there in Klexdorp. So I phoned them. Hey, gents, you guys have this car? Like, yeah, okay, I'm coming.
No way.
I drove there, literally drove there, went, got my car, got bag stashed full of cash. It was crazy, man. Went in there, it was very crazy, and took the car, drove back. Come again? No, in fact, what happened is I had some, and then I had to get some as well. So when I got there, I had to go to the local bank there, and I was crazy scared because I was crazy scared because you always hear these stories about these guys when you withdraw and they follow you and whatsoever. Yeah. But then I had a little bit of some money. It's gone now. I don't have so. But yeah,
That was before you saw the car.
the Datsun.
No,
Yeah.
the 45, before you saw it.
Yeah. So I've never seen it. I've never test driven it. I just saw pictures and I fell in love with it. And
When you made the financial commitment of going to the TSC.
I'm going to I drove to Klexdorp. That's in the go to what province is it? It's the northwest. Yeah. I went to northwest. Just grabbed it and
Drove it back.
I enjoyed that ride coming back. It was a beauty.
So you bought the car cash, actually? You will do a lifestyle audit. Lifestyle audit. No tax.
No, there was some complex transactions that happened there. So yeah, we delete that part. So yeah, so that's really been my look. I've driven quite a number of cars. Quite a few.
So the A45 was one of them.
Yo, A45,
What's the second one?
E63S, Golf 6 GTI, RS3, CLA 45, which is not really mine, it's my sister's, but but I've spent, she doesn't know much about cars and stuff, so yeah.
Okay. So I see your big overwhelming favorite of Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
And you've got some big angry faces here because most of these guys are BMW guys.
And
And we've got one black sheep in the house.
Sure, it's literally BMW.
Tell us more about the E63.
That's a beast, man. That car is I think it's I still think that the E63S is the best vehicle that Mercedes ever produced. V8 bi-turbo, it's mean. The sound is mean. That thing is 4MATIC plus. Mercedes, combine class with power in the thing. The tuning platforms, though, are a bit tricky. We spent a lot of time with that car. BBT, the guys that also did the A45, they spent a lot of time, and you must check out BBT, guys. I still think that they're the best tuners. So we spent a lot of time trying to tune that vehicle, building the turbos, trying to hybrid them up. But yeah, we just could never get it right. And that's the difficult part about Mercedes, because there's cars and then there's a racing platform. And you guys know, if you're going to be on the racing platform, then you need to tune. It doesn't matter, how great and expensive the car is. You'll get Dandas. You get Dandas from anything and everything. So we tried our level best, to get that E63 tuned and sorted out, but all sort of issues and complications and gearbox. But I still think that it's that's one great car to own. Yeah, it's an enjoyable vehicle. It's a presidential vehicle, but with the power in it. And unlike the famous or infamous C63, there you driving pushing power on all four tires, which just gives you an advantage. So yeah, it's a great car.
Maybe 63 real drive.
No. It's for Matic Plus. Yeah, very easy to launch as well, right? So if I recall correctly, with the E63, you don't even have to put traction off. Just put it in Sport Plus, apply your thingy, your brake, floor the thing, and then it's launching. Which is what I thought that I was going to find in the Audi RS3.
So
Yeah, but, oh no, now you have to put off traction, but you must hold it longer than what? I've held on the traction longer than most of my relationships that I've been in. Just to be able to move forward, man.
So what's one of like the biggest misconceptions of Mercedes in the aftermarket scene that we can crush? Because we spoke about how the A45 obviously had some sort of problems with tunability and not everyone really understanding the platform, as well as the E63. Do you think it's a matter of people not having the right amount of R&D in order for them to make that proper, custom file or proper race car, or it's a thing of not having enough resources to make it a reliable race car as well?
It's a thing of how many people do you find racing Mercedes Benzes in the streets?
That's the thing.
It's there's not many of them. Now your R's, your Golds, your Audis, they've been in the scene for a very very long time. So anything VAG, yeah, and the BMs as well. So the market has been developing parts, doing experiments on these things, pushing them to their limits. Mercedes owners, they often perceived as the guys who are all about class, and they don't buy stuff to go and race. They buy stuff to park it or to use it on weekends or whatever the case is. And I think that's where the downfall is, that there's not many tuning houses that get to experiment with them. And by the time that you start experimenting, you're starting with guys like myself, Bongs, Nick 45, Carl 45, Abum Juli and them. And we almost like the first guys to start pushing in this thing. They've stopped manufacturing these A45s. A45 was first released in 2014, 2015. Yeah, thereabout. No, it was actually 12. No, was it not 12? 2013, yeah. But you're only seeing them now in the street racing. So it's like you're trying to catch up. And unfortunately, it becomes too expensive to catch up. And very, very frustrating as well. You end up giving up. Most of the guys that I know that have owned 45s, they're giving up. I mean, the guys that have spent shit, crazy lot of money. No, well, every car breaks. But the A45 braking is different, because if you're going to break a water pump in an A45, it's going to cost you more to replace it than it's going to cost you to replace it in an 8V1 or 8V2. And that's where it becomes very, very tricky. So and again, it's not worth it, because if you want to tune a car, the car is going to break. And the challenge managing the A45 is, it's going to break. It's going to be very, very expensive to then replace those parts.
Right.
And the amount of money that you're going to spend on your M140, and the amount of money, if I spend the same amount of money on the A45, you're going to push better times than me.
Right.
Check the guys now who've got the fastest A45s. If they were to be honest with you and, open up and say, look, this is the rent value that I've spent on this money, and then check the times that they're running. The guys are fighting to be in the lower tens. 800,000 rand later. For you, 800,000 later, you give it John Wick. It's probably going to be riding in 8 seconds.
Yeah, true.
Someone on the X-Drive, BMW spends way less. 200,000. Way less to be
to run 8 seconds. In the nines already.
Yeah.
And you need 200, spending 200 because you need to go to gearbox. That's a 90,000.
Sure.
But also now, actually ceiling as well, because A45, as we know, is a 2 liter 4 cylinder that Mercedes has ideally pushed into the max to to a limit where it's safe. And now you take it to the racing scene and try to push it even more. So the ceiling is much closer than compared to its counterparts that are pushing 3 liters, 6 liters.
What's the 7R capacity, engine capacity?
2 liter.
It's also 2 liter, 4-cylinder as well, ne? And so you see where the frustration will eventually come in. If you're going to juxtapose it against your RS3s, which is 2.56, then it would make sense. But now you've got the A45 and you've got the 7R, which when you push it to the limits, you're still going to run better times. So I don't really think that it now becomes an issue of the ceiling. For me, I think it still goes back to there's not much experiments on them. I mean, if it is the strongest 2-liter engine ever built, then it should be able to then withhold and push better times and better power than your 7Rs, but it just doesn't. You spend a lot of money, you just won't run those times.
Yeah, makes sense.
Bareng probably chowed me, gave me a head start, and maybe he had spent half of what I had spent on the A45 and still caught and passed. So those type of frustrations, you end up giving up.
There's quite a lot of those as well, that's true. And I think also one thing I'm sure most of the guys would also like to know was your first driving experience behind the wheel. Before license and also after license. What car did you drive before you had the license?
So I learned how to drive in my old man's Mac. It was also an E-Class, but automatic. So it's really not much learning in an auto. Maybe you're just learning how to control the steering. It was lots of fun, man. I've had many instances before, even starting to drive my old man's car, where I would experiment with people's cars. Some of them ended up with tragic conclusions. One time I was at church, and this lady, I just learned, it was like, no, I didn't even learn. But in my mind, I'd concluded that I can drive. So this lady actually, so she was going to shift the car key to make space for another car sitting there. And I said to her, no, give me the key, I'll do it. She says, oh, can you drive? See, I can. And then she trusted me, she gave me the key. So I went in there. Everybody knows how to start a car. But not everybody knows that when a car is in gear, you don't just start it. And I was the guy. So when I started this thing, like I knew nothing about clutches and what I was saying was in gear. I started it, it jumped, went into a Renault Clio in front of me. Crazy, man. And then even with my old man's car, so eventually you start driving around with your old man, and he teaches you the ins and outs. Then you start experimenting. I could drive, it was one of these presidential cars as well. And then this one time I took the car, well, he gave me the car. But then I found myself in a parking lot. Which one is parallel and which one is what?
There's the parallel parking, there's the early docking.
And the?
Parallel parking is like the side parking, early docking is the one where you park.
It was early docking. But now, so Mangen and up in the early docking, there was a TERS to the left. There's a pole to the right. And I've just got that space there. So the best thing to do would have been to park the car in reverse. I went in from the front. Young Shuli moto. So now I can say, okay, this car won't fit. Try to reverse the car, but now I scratched the tires. So I'm like, okay, what do I do here, man? I try, and I feel I can't get this thing done. So I just reverse, put a huge scratch on these tires. And continued with my life. So if the test driver says this thing, you're in a parking lot and you saw your tires, the law says you can't claim after 3 years. So yeah, so those were the first driving experiences, but those were exciting times. Just learning the ins and outs of the car, just the adrenaline of being behind the steering. Yeah, nothing special though.
So currently with the stage that you're at right now, with the A45 and the RS3, we all know that not every car is perfect. So I would like for you to list 5 things you like about the A45 as well as the RS3, as well as the cons with the RS3 and also the A45 as well.
The first thing that I like about the A45 is the sound. It's because I've done the full exhaust. It's a crazy sound. interior of the A45 is amazing. And I could probably say the exterior as well because we've just now finished wrapping it with the is it set in gloss black, which makes it look dope. Yeah, it's more of the aesthetics at this point in time. So I've mentioned the sound, I've mentioned the interior and the exterior. We've done the shadow lights now by the doors, which are very, very dope. I've posted some of those on my gram. And the A45 is always, in Mercedes in general, always seems to be way ahead of its time because that A45 that I've got is the 2015 model. But, it comes with heated seats, adaptive cruise control, and a whole lot of other fancy technologies, including park assist and sensors and all of those type of things, which most of the cars back then didn't even have. In fact, most of these cars are only starting to have these things now.
Right.
So that's what I really, really like about the A45. I hate the fact that the A45, and I hope I've mentioned 5, but I hate the fact that with the A45, I cannot break in and hit those times for drag racing purposes because for me, it's more of a drag racing car. And, and in the drag racing scene, it's all about domination.
Right.
That's a factor. Sort of like accepted that I can never dominate with the I've had my fair share and enjoyed and stuff back then. So I think that's the one thing that I really, really hate. And another thing that's just a challenge for me with the A45 is the parts. The parts are super expensive.
Right.
Yeah, they're very, very expensive. And maintaining that car as well is very, very expensive. So it's not a cheap car to own. What else? I've had a very long journey with this car. Like I mentioned earlier, I've knocked the engine twice. And I think that's the one thing that keeps pulling. So I don't know if I can mention expensive 5 times and say I hate that.
The financial cost.
It's too much. The RS3 has a lot of potential.
A lot.
We know that these are cars that are dominating the streets at the moment. The 8Y, by the way, the 8Y does not run on a Daza engine. It's DWNA, whereas your 8V1 and your 8V2s are Daza. I think that there's a lot of potential there. Mine is pretty stock still, but it's quite aggressive, and you can feel it. The reaction time is quite crazy, and when you're pushing it and you're flooring it on the highway. I've dragged with it a couple of times as well. There's certainly a lot of potential. What frustrates me about it is one, right now I currently have soft limiters.
Oh, that's the one that sucks.
Yeah, and there's no sound. So every car now with all of these regulations around carbon emissions and all this type of stuff, they come with a lot of limitations, which sucks.
Big time. Big time.
And the interior is not great for me because one of the things that stood out, and again it was another impulsive decision when I bought the RS3. Didn't think much about it, but and the thing eventually came. And I was just looking at this thing now. I don't have seat warmers, and it's been cold.
Especially with leather seats in the morning, it's unbearable.
So I don't have seat warmers. My seat adjustments aren't automatic. Well, they're automatic on the driver's side, but on the passenger side, it's manual. That's a lot of money for a car that's
Where you have to manually
shift your seats. It's a crazy load of money that you're spending on a car, and I do not think that I've got adaptive cruise control. I don't know. I've never tried. We never
Probably
used
like
it.
an optional extra maybe there.
And that's what sucks about these cars these days. For every feature now, you need to pay.
Yeah, you need to pay that extra
couple of
bit of cash
hundreds.
to actually get it.
So yeah, that's a downfall. But I think that what attracted me to the Audi was before even getting to the fact it was like I'm Audi, like Hayabusa and what's or not. It was the fact that when I looked at it, I was like, the 8Y is mean.
Yeah. Definitely.
That thing is a beast.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, I think whatever audio is done with this 8Ys, this chap that came up with this 8Y design, man, he needs to get a bonus.
Definitely.
So whether you're looking at it from the RSQs and the RS7s, it's just all of them. They mean they're like they're best, and especially when you view that thing from the rear view mirror. Then I've had the privilege of driving another car and seeing the 8Y from the back. So it's a beast. It's an eye candy as well.
Yeah.
And I think because we don't have that many of them as well, it will always, I mean, married men, but just
It's for the babies.
put it out there.
Yeah.
Love this guy is throwing some shade there. And love it for now. Do you must love it for now, because once I start tuning that thing, right?
It's game over.
Yeah, it's game over.
No catching whatsoever.
So it's the thing is a beast, and you can feel it. Look, the last time I drove a car that was as aggressive as the RS3, but I still think that the E63 was more aggressive. It was the E63, which was tuned, by the way. You know, and the sound that it gives and the reaction as you put it into sport, it is, and you're getting that, notwithstanding the fact that you're driving it in comfort and it's not yet been tuned. So I can only imagine what this thing is going to look like,
Exactly.
what it's been tuned. So there's a lot of potential, and that's attracted me. It's going to
Mind
take me.
getting more into that. Obviously, we don't know anyone who has a tuned 8Y. So who does it?
I read that there was one, eh?
Yeah. So who does it? What are the options? Have you done any research? Do you know how it goes about? What are the potentials? Do you know anything about it that you can tell us? So obviously, I'll never Google it. So if you don't mind, I mean, it's your scene.
Yeah, I don't, not at the moment. I've got a couple of guys that I know that are owning them, but I don't know anybody personally that is tuned it. I've heard that there's a guy, I don't know if it's from Cape Town or it's tuned is.
One guy, local actually, they have a red one.
But did it come in from Cape Town?
They're tuning it.
They tune it locally.
It was I think it was the Colab car. If you remember, Colab posted the first 8Y to modified nonsense.
So what I understood was Colab had an 8Y that came in, which was a similar spec with mine, with the green stitchings, the honeycomb stitchings, but then they drew the motor or something like that.
Yes.
And then there was another one that was not successfully done, which is the red one.
Yes.
But it's gone back to Cape Town. And the owner is in Cape Town. It was tuned in Josie, but the owner is in Cape Town or something like that.
So there's a second one now. The same car actually, I think it's changed hands.
Yeah.
They're apparently keeping under wraps, but something about a second ECU. I think those are European guys that Europe did it.
So you actually need to get a second ECU.
So it's a second ECU in the car. Second ECU in the car, working it somehow, and then they're attempting to tune it, because I know they've tuned it to about those guys got about 300 something kilowatts out of it with that second piggyback. It was like a JB4, but not a JB4 kind of situation.
The only thing that you can do on the Empire is JB4.
Yeah, currently.
Yeah. Which is still risky though, because
it's still risky because
they come
you
with
can
black
problem
boxes as well. And so Audi will always pick up if you do any funny things then. So if you want to tune it or even run JB4, I think you need to be very comfortable. Say if I lose my warranty, then I don't have an issue, because they've got like this. This is the same thing that they've got in the planes. When
the black box,
So they've got that now in the headline. I believe in most of these cars that are being released, this
BMW
cars.
It's the Bosch MDG1 ECU.
Yeah,
that's the ECU specifically. Yeah, the refreshing that they all cars, BMW, Audi, Bosch, them working together for whatever reason.
So what I'm waiting for is. I'm waiting for people to make mistakes, so I want to see, how the other guys are gonna go about it. I'm not in any rush at this point in time, so I'll wait and see. I have no intention whatsoever of waiting my warranty at this stage. So, but at least by the time that I start playing into the scene, so maybe in the next 4 years or so, then I might then see who's gone where and done what,
You
follow.
ask him there, I want him to be on the mic. When you choose the RS3, who's the first person you're calling out? You ask him there on the mic.
When you tune the car, right? Who is the first person you're calling out for drag race? Proudly so.
No. There's not gonna be do. Do you know why? Tell you why. It's not gonna be. It's not going to be any of the guys that are seated here in the room, because when I start tuning, I go big. You know, so that means that I'm going to be playing in the league of the big boys.
Also, you're saying we don't have the capacity.
Nah, you guys don't have the capacity. Chief, you don't have the capacity. You must make peace with that. Like, no, you see that 8 seconds car one. Yeah. So I think once I start tuning that thing, I'm going to be playing in the league of the guys that are chasing times. So I foresee myself maybe fighting about John Wick or Post TTRS and the guys that are running up there, because that's what I'm. There's no reason for me, to be mediocre when I start tuning. I'm going all out. What's the point? What's the point of tuning if I'm gonna be tuning to, race my life? I must be giving you all the head starts.
Do you think the racing thing is like?
No.
Yeah, so that's also one thing that I also like to touch on, because when you had your A45, you weren't too familiar with the racing scene, and tracking then up until now, I want you to give me sort of like a evaluation of the current South African racing scene and what could be done in terms of positive motives that could obviously potentially move it in a progressive way that's obviously entertaining for spectators and also kind of conducive for racing drivers as yourself.
You see that I'm going to use an analogy, which has nothing to do with racing, but relates to the car scene. Then I'm going to link that then as I respond to the question. I recently attended this German business job with Karabo was there and a couple of other guys. And I just said, what the hell am I doing here? It was packed, with all these kids and tens of thousands of people. You could barely breathe or move. And then I saw people post, this German business job has lost its touch and what's or not paying the foot in the gear. And so I thought to myself, did it really lose its touch? And the answer is probably not. We're getting older, because time is moving, and we need to be honest with one another. Probably that place wouldn't have been that much packed had I not attended. And everybody my age, if we had accepted that, no, we used to enjoy these things when we were these kids' ages, So now let's leave it to them as well, and then move on to the next thing. I think the racing scene is like that as well. The racing scene never dies. People get old, and then when we get old, the energies are no longer the same.
And the next generation
and the next generation is coming in, and now when we are looking at the next generation, we are judging them according to our experiences, and then we make the unreasonable conclusion that the racing scene is dying, but it's not. But to be honest, you are the one that is dying. So the only negative that I've noted in the racing scene is that it's becoming more and more reckless. Where before there was a certain level of maturity, guys would know that, look, you're not going to drink and race. Even if you're doing racing in an environment that's not a closed environment, you'd still have it monitored in a way to ensure not only the safety of the drivers but also the spectators. But now I don't see any of that anymore, and it's become a free-for-all environment, and that's a problem, because you no longer have leaders. In the past, you had leaders in the racing scene. You had organizers that keep people in check, that keep things in check. Mind you, no more is running this thing. If anybody just decides, there's a back road lapana, and let's call guys together, they just call. Then people start dollaring whatever they need to dollar. So that recklessness is fast increasing. And places like Ekezina, no idea why anybody would want to race in Ekezina, and risk your life. And so that's just what takes the joy away, because now you've got law enforcement that's coming down authoritatively on the races, and then it's taking away the fun from all the other responsible races. That's the difference. And if maybe what might cause racing to die, but still, I don't think that it's going to die. Maybe the older generation who wants to preserve this thing for the future generations could then still play a role. You may not be a racer, but you can help preserve. How do you do so? Maybe start investing to build safe places. Build the Rock is an amazing place. The only difficulty is that it's like a 200-meter stretch, which is not sufficient. You all have money here, man. This guy's so much money. Build us a nice, extreme raceway here locally where people can do quarter miles or do a kilometer. And that's the role that you can play, to then preserve it and keep it from dying. Because the only thing that might cause it to die is the blatant, illegal, and unsafe racing that is now becoming more and more predominant.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think also social media is taking a part of that in making the racing scene or just the automotive culture more saturated than it was before?
Yeah, no, certainly. And that's unavoidable. And there's a lot of disruption happening. And social media is playing a very, very huge role. Now things can easily get passed on Instagram. What would have been a private poster at some point, you create a poster for 5 people, say, yo, gents, let's go and meet. Nenini, you've got 100 people who don't even have the same mindset or, share the same purpose with you, rocking up. So that's inevitable, and it's just going to get more and more, exposed as we go on with time. What the guys should be doing, manja and toxic, yeah. So what we should be doing, with this technological revolution that we're finding ourselves in, we must be now finding out ways of how to harness that and then use it to our own advantage. Because if left to its own frolic, then we are sinking it. Because it is definitely more and more saturated these days. To most of the time to our own peril, but yeah.
So I don't know if anyone also wants to add anything, but I would just also would like to ask a question of still sticking with social media. There's a lot of people that obviously browse it and they see the end result of what someone obviously has attained. So they see a brand new car that you've gotten, and it obviously inspires them. But I think for the viewers that are specifically watching this episode, there's certain people out there that obviously have goals, aspirations, dreams that they would like to obviously potentially achieve in a specific time frame. And there's obviously people that are obviously quite impatient and grow impatient to the point where they feel like giving up. So I don't know if there's any sort of words of wisdom, inspiration, things that could make them progressively move forward and, not give up and just stick with the road and make sure that, they fulfill their dreams and obviously their purpose in life.
Yeah. Well, to the impatient, they need to go and visit a therapist see a professional to deal with that. One thing that's made me fall in love with this crew, Chases and Races, that it's made up of professionals. It's made up of people that are hardworking. It's made up of people that have taken the time to go and get themselves educated. And people that will one day solve the load shedding crisis. The lights just went off. Do we pause?
No, it's fine.
Is it fine? Yeah, it's fine. All right, yeah. So what I really like about this is that you've got a group of young people that have gone through the educational cycle, established themselves, or are finding their way, within the corporate environment in establishing themselves. I've never been a fan, nor am I a proponent of shortcuts. We grew up, watching people take shortcuts who seemingly succeeded. And I say seemingly succeeded. There's no success in shortcuts. It's just short-lived excitement. And, that we know where it usually leads up to. But when you work hard for something, you'll appreciate it even more. And things take time. You see us sled down and then, we're looking all young and stuff, and you bump, I also want to do this, and you get a lot of that, I'm like, okay, kulungile ngakufaka lapha emalini ne ngicela nje ungenzele izimbalwa qala ngokuyesibili ne And also go and study for this degree. This is the degree that I studied. So go and study for this degree, and it's a 4-year degree. And in the 4 years, this is how many times that I flopped a couple of modules. And after that, when I finished, this is the journey that I went through before getting actual employment. This was the peanut salary that I first earned as I was coming into practice. These are the board examinations that I had to write. This is the number of times that I failed them. This is the number of times that I had to go and rewrite them. And then I eventually passed them, right? And then I've been working harder and harder and harder to ascend the corporate ladder. So I'm very happy, but unfortunately I was not born in it. I went through this journey, and we all can. What I'm just in different spaces. Some people are intellectual, some people are more practical. They entrepreneurs, and the smart guys that come up with inventions and so forth. But find your niche, find your talent, get a mentor. That's one thing that I always emphasize on. Get a mentor. That makes a huge difference. They say that in the boardrooms we finalize deals. They don't start in the boardroom. They start in different places. They start in social setups. Get somebody that will plug you into those social setups. Get somebody that will be able to take with you to that golf course whilst you're still a student, so that Xasa, when you are now done with your degree and you need access into investing, you're not going to struggle that much because you once played golf with a COO and they know you. So when your CV comes before them, it's going to be a familiar sighting for them. So do that, but also you must take cognizance of what you're good in, what you're talented in, outside of crime. Everybody can be a criminal. Everybody can be. We're all talented in that environment. So I'd say to the young guys that are listening here, it does not happen overnight.
No.
There's a lot of pain to it. There's so many guys seated around the room here that probably some of them have already recorded that can share their different journeys. So when you see us rocking up in a convoy of vehicles, we're not trying to show off. We're trying to show you that it's possible. When you saw us carrying those bags, when you saw us toiling day and night in the sun, not sleeping and what's or not, 10 years later, these are what the results can. And if we could do it, you certainly can do it as well. So just be patient.
100%. 100%.
Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. I'd like to thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us on this podcast. Definitely, this was the most insightful podcast we've ever had. A lot of information for us to take in, obviously from the drag racing scene, from the intellectual side of you, and how you should never give up on life, not taking shortcuts, and all sorts of things like that. I don't know if there's anything anyone else would like to ask, if they're interested in, but that was a very beautiful podcast, and we hope to see you soon on a personal drive in one of your cars. And I think that's pretty much it for it now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow our socials. We are only on Instagram and also on YouTube as well. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you. Thanks, gents.